Okay, so Julie's asking, Dr. Osborne, you have two types of B12 in your store. What is your advice for deciding which ones to order? Yeah, so we have two different types. We have one called hydroxycobalamin. We have another one called methylcobalamin. If you're not working directly with a functional medicine doctor to have your genetics and analyzed to see how well you metabolize vitamin B12, then the best one to choose is methylcobalamin. So you can choose methylcobalamin. And right now, I think it's on sale right now. So those of you who are looking to pick up a bottle, you can use the coupon code gluten-free B12, and it'll save you 20% off of any order on methylcobalamin, that bottle of methylcobalamin. But the other difference, Julie, is this. The methylcobalamin is just pure methylcobalamin. There's no other artificial, there's no ingredients, there's no gluten, there's no fillers. Most methylcobalamin lozenges, this one's a lozenge, it absorbs through your cheeks. It doesn't have corn flavoring in it. A lot of the products, as a matter of fact, before I even started formulating my own, I tried to find a company that I could carry in my practice, and I couldn't. All of them, when they say natural flavors, everyone, when we called the manufacturer to ask what the natural source of the natural flavors were, what we found is that they were corn derivatives, and that just wouldn't work for my practice. That wouldn't work for what we do and what our message is. So you got to be cautious about those corn fillers. But the other one, the hydroxycobalamin, which is the other one that you're asking about, hydroxycobalamin is a specialized form, but that particular product also has folate and vitamin B6 in it, so it's kind of a synergistic blend to help a lot of people deal with homocysteine, because those three B vitamins help to lower homocysteine. Great question. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, what do you guys think of the new graphics? We're going to be scaling up our production value for you. So love to hear your commentary on our new graphics and our new graphic design. So feedback is much appreciated. So Marianne says, my B12 level goes down to the low 200s and my doctor gives me injections every other month. I only end up having 125 milligrams. It is of it as 1,000 milligrams takes it to the point I feel like I'm super anxious. Yeah, that can happen. You can take too much. So many of you may have tried B12 before and the dose could have been too high. It could have made you feel alert and awake and too anxious and made it hard for you to sleep. The best time to take vitamin B12, what is that? When's the best time to take it? In the morning. Because if it's gonna give you energy, you don't want to take it before bedtime where it's keeping you awake at night. So definitely take it in the morning. So Laura wants to know, if I drink chicken broth freshly made each week, healing my leaky gut, and eat mostly vegetarian, the rest of the time, is that enough animal protein? It depends, Laura. That's a very kind of personalized question. There are a couple different things that can help us understand that. One is measuring the protein levels in your body, and there's a couple different ways. Some doctors will run a test for albumin and globulin. These are proteins floating around in your body, and if those are low, it may mean that your overall protein status is too low. Additionally, there's a test called a plasma amino acid test, which will measure your proteins and your amino acids to see whether or not you're too low in certain ones. It may be that you need more protein than that, but as far as B12, is it enough? It's very hard to say. It may not be enough. You may need more. And again, going back to default, what we said earlier is get with your doc and have them check your levels, and that's how you'll know for sure. Should you always take a BComplex alongside a separate B12 supplement? Tracy wants to know. It's not a bad idea, Tracy. The B vitamins are friends. They work together. They hold hands and run through the forest together to help your body generate energy. So it's a good idea to be on. When I have somebody taking a methylcobalamin in my practice, I also have them on what's called Ultra Nutrients, which is a multivitamin, multi-mineral formulation that has a B complex in it. In part for that reason. We know that these B vitamins play together and you need to use them together. Let's see here. So Sarah wants to know, I'm showing symptoms, all the symptoms that you mentioned for B12 deficiency, was training for a marathon and symptoms came on quickly, slowed down on working out, hoping body would recover. Unfortunately, muscle fatigue continues. I've started with a B12 supplement, one under the tongue daily, but have not seen great results. Should I add more? Maybe. Depends on the dose, Sarah. That's kind of vague for me because the dose for some B12 supplements varies greatly. I've seen it in the hundreds of micrograms range to the thousands of micrograms range. If you're talking about like a therapeutic dose, like a heavy dose, is between 5 and 10,000 micrograms a day sublingually under the tongue to get direct bypassing of your GI tract and absorbing through your bloodstream. It may be, but you may have also some other problems. I've seen marathoners, people who train for marathons, there's a lot to the nutrition for properly training for a marathon, and so if you don't have your nutritional values measured out, and when I say measured out, I mean, have somebody measuring your vitamins, your minerals, your amino acids, your metabolic byproducts of training to make sure that you're not hitting training fatigue, then you could hit training fatigue for lots of different reasons. Monica says, my B12 is 314. The reference is 180 to 914. It doesn't say what test. Is it accurate numbers? That's pretty accurate, but that would be what I was talking about earlier, Monica. That would be a serum test, and that's not the most accurate way to measure. Brenda says, my B12 is very high, 1200 from a blood test. Could I still be deficient? Yes, you could. Again, serum B12, not the best way to measure. If you walk away with anything from me today, serum B12 is not a great way to measure vitamin B12 sufficiency or cellular saturation. If you're suffering from, Paul wants to know, if you're suffering from neuropathy and your B12 and MCH are fine. Look, there are a lot of different causes for neuropathy, Paul, not just vitamin B12 deficiency. So let's think about what else might be contributing to neuropathy, neurologically speaking. You could have compression of a nerve. If you have a systemic neuropathy, there could be a systemic disease or autoimmune disease. There could be a disease like diabetes that would be contributing to it. So CoQ10 deficiency can cause neuropathy. Folate deficiency can cause neuropathy. So it's not just B12. I know I wrote it on the board here for you, but it's not the only cause of neuropathy, B12. So you've got to make sure that your doc is investigating all those potential nutritional reasons why you could develop nerve damage. So Vicky says, if on chemo and taking metformin, wow, and taking antacids among other off-label drugs, how much B12 should I receive? Either daily pills or weekly shots? That's a tough question, Vicky. Ultimately, I would say get tested. Without testing, it's hard to know. But here's the thing about B12. The great thing about it is it's water soluble. It's super safe to take in higher doses. Very rarely does it ever cause any side effects for anyone. So, 5 to 10,000 micrograms a day should be a safe thing. But to be cautious, because there's so many different drugs and so many other things that are going on, I would definitely make sure that you're getting the level tested. Debbie says, I take digestive enzymes with protein. Will that help me absorb vitamin B12? Depends on the type of digestive enzyme that you're taking. There are different kinds. There's lipase, there's protease. So like digestive enzymes that will help break down meat are helpful, but not in the extent you need acid to get the B12 off the meat, not protease. Although protease will help break the meat down, it's not going to get access to that B12. So you definitely, if you think you're deficient because there's a problem in your stomach, for most people, it's not more enzymes that they need to take to get more B12 absorbed. It's acid, a form of hydrochloric acid. I actually have a formulation with betaine hydrochloride in it. It's called Ultra Acid. If you want to check that out as a kind of a supportive agent to help you digest the meats from the food that you're eating to get to the vitamin B12. So Nikki says, hi, I live in South Africa. Thanks for tuning in from across the pond, Nikki. I have lupus and fibro. I'm going to assume you mean fibromyalgia. Also, I have a vitamin B12 deficiency. I have to inject once a month. Used to do it once a week. Also have a vitamin D tablet every Friday. Okay, I think the question is the deficiency as a result of the lupus? It's hard to say which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Did the lupus and the increased inflammatory cascade, and when the inflammation goes up, it puts more demand on vitamins and minerals. Did the lupus cause the B12 deficiency, or did the B12 deficiency contribute to the lupus? It's very difficult to say, but we can say this. If you have the deficiency, it has to be corrected, and you've got to get it taken care of. And it's very possible that it might help with the lupus symptoms, because remember, coming back down here, a lot of people with lupus have muscle and joint pain, and sometimes those pains overlap. Sometimes the pain from the actual autoimmune disease is similar the way it feels as the pain from a vitamin B12 deficiency might be. So in some cases, it's a person has lupus and the B12 deficiency didn't cause their lupus, but the B12 deficiency made their pain worse, and so they think their lupus is getting worse, and so they opt to take stronger doses of drugs, when in some cases, correcting the deficiency might reduce the pain but not eliminate the pain, and so therefore not having them increase their medication use. So you see, it's kind of a fine line, and that's why I say it should be monitored. Robbie wants to know, vegetarian-rich foods and B12? Not really. I mean, again, vitamin B12 is a bacterial byproduct. It's the bacteria in the animal foods have an action on those animal foods that leads to the production of the B12 in them. You just don't get that from animal. Now, you'd have to eat pounds of algae to get adequate B12 consistently time over time. Again, that's where if you're a vegetarian, or especially not so much a vegetarian, because it depends on the kind of vegetarianism you follow, because like if you're doing dairy or eggs, things of that nature, where you're going to get some B12. But if you're pure, only plant-based, look, just have your levels checked. You may or you may not need it. Some people do and some people don't. I've seen it go both ways. I'm not saying that every vegan is B12 deficient, but it is a very, very common deficiency amongst vegans. Can children be B12 deficient, and can they absorb a supplement? Yes, most definitely children can be deficient. And yes, they most definitely can absorb a supplement. So, yeah, I mean, I see kids all the time with B12 deficiency. Remember, the kids, one of the things that causes B vitamin deficiency that I didn't really talk about tonight is sugar. And so you think about children and their sugar intake, depending on your kids and the way you parent, you may just, say, oh, let them eat all the sugar they need on Halloween, they'll run it off. That kind of attitude is it's really detrimental to children, because it will cause massive B vitamin deficit. Sugar steals B vitamins and things like CoQ10 and magnesium from your body. In essence, if you're taking in sugar without nutrients, your body has to then take its internal storage of nutrients to process that sugar and convert it into energy. That means B vitamins, and so you can really, really cause B vitamin deficiency long term with a lot of sugar intake. Robbie wants to know, long-term gum swelling, is that a symptom of vitamin B12 deficiency? Yes, it can be. In any time if somebody opens their mouth and they have inflammation in the oral cavity along the mucosa, along the gum line, remember, this tissue inside the mouth and all through the GI tract is rapid turnover tissue. Every 2 days it's brand new. The cells are constantly being reproduced. Vitamin B12 deficiency makes it very hard for that 2-day turnover to happen. So these cells don't get turned over quite adequately, and they can start to become inflamed and start to swell. So a lot of questions keep coming back on how do you know, again, high levels of serum. The way that you know if it's getting into your cell is you have your doctor run an intracellular test. That there's no guessing around that. You don't want to play around with that. You want to get it tested to see whether or not it's making it in. For many people, it doesn't make it in because they're taking the wrong kind. They're not taking the right kind of B12. So like cyanocobalamin is very poorly metabolized internally, and it's very hard to get it into the cell. It's got to be converted to methylcobalamin, which goes back to what I said earlier. Methylcobalamin is a much better form of vitamin B12 to take. Crypto Chris says, what about sugar? Going back to what I said earlier about sugar, what about fruits or natural forms of sugar? Do those also contribute to B12 deficiency? Not so much, because remember that the fruits that you eat, now don't get me wrong, anyone can overdo fruit. You can overdo fruit, and you can overdo the sugar and the fructose from the fruit. So if you're the kind of person that sits down with the bowl of watermelon and then cleans it up, or the whole pile of grapes and cleans it up, that's too much. It can be too much really quickly. But just pure fruit, no. Because the B vitamins are found in the fruit when you eat it. Not so much B12, because again, it's only found in animal products, but the other B vitamins are there. So when you're eating fruit, you're not just depleting your levels of all your B vitamins, because you're not eating an empty calorie. Fruit is not an empty calorie. Is oral as good as subcutaneous, meaning injecting under the skin, or sublingual? Which one's the best, right? Well, oral is the worst if you have this problem. It's going to be hard to bypass this if you have this problem. But subcutaneous and sublingual are equally effective. So if that was your question, in almost 20 years of practice, I've only ever had to see, I think, maybe 2 people go in and need vitamin B12 injections because the sublingual wasn't working. So sublingual, 99% of the time, is just as effective. Yeah, so a lot of you asking if 2000 or if high levels of B12 is dangerous. Again, it's water soluble, so it's relatively non-toxic. So, you know, if your doctor says, oh, your B12 is sky high, do you have to worry about that being a problem? Do you have to worry about that being somehow now you're going to become toxic in B12? Typically not. Again, B vitamins are typically don't become toxic. The only B vitamin we really have to worry about major toxicity with getting too much is vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 toxicity can cause neuropathy and migraine headaches and trigger in females premenstrual symptoms. So vitamin B6 you can get too much of. It's a little bit easier to get too much of that one than it is the others, but the other ones are relatively non-toxic and no really great reporting on any type of side effects from higher doses. We're just about out of time here. Make a couple of quick announcements before we jump off tonight. Announcement number one, if you haven't picked up your copy of the Gluten-Free Survival Guide, make sure you head over to glutenfreesociety.org and put your name and email in, and we'll send that to you free of charge as a gift, just helping you navigate the gluten-free diet. Number two, if you want questions answered, maybe I didn't get your question answered tonight, there were just too many to answer them all, make sure you email us at glutenology@gmail.com. And if your question is good and we feel like it'll help a lot of folks, we'll do a video answer for you personally and post that to our YouTube channel. Number three, make sure, click right down here and hit that subscribe button, but go one step further. If you're subscribed already, there should be a little bell icon right down here in the corner, in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Click that bell icon because that's how you're going to get notified when we go live and do extra video footage. I've got a lot of video coming out for you guys in the next few months. I mean a lot. We're working really, really hard to get more information to you. So make sure you subscribe, and then once you subscribe, make sure that you click the notification bell so that you're going to get a quick email being notified that video is available for you to watch. So this is Dr. Osborne with the Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain Show. Had a great time tonight. Hope you did too. Hope you learned a lot. We will see you next week for our next continuance of this journey into our crash course on vitamins and minerals. Have a great week. We'll see you then. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.